Hi, Slimming Well Vegan here, Nikki. I've just decided to do an extra video in reply to Byron the Vegan Losers video that he started on the 5 things I hate, 5 things I love about Slimming World. And I was like, am I even qualified to do that? Because obviously I'm no longer a member. I'm not a paid member of Slimming World anymore, even though I'm following the food optimizing plan and following what I've learned at Slimming World. I'm not actually going to a physical group or doing an online membership. Um, and I thought, well, I have been going to Slimming World since the 2000s, and I started at Slimming Magazine World like in 95, 1995, believe it or not. And it was like so Slimming Magazine World was like an offshoot of Slimming Magazine and Slimming, so it was like it was to do with Slimming World but wasn't to do with Slimming World. It was weird, but it followed basically the same plan. When Slimming World were doing red and green days and flexi days and all of that, it was exactly the same. And it was really weird because I was in a group with one of the Nolan sisters. So that was my claim to fame, that she was in my slimming group. And she was amazing. She was so, so sweet. And everything about it was really helpful. But I was in my late 20s. I was very, well, early 20s. And I was very fit and healthy. I was doing lots of exercise, and I lost 6 stone. I'd put on 6 stone during a pregnancy, and I lost 6 stone within 9 months of having having my first child, and then falling pregnant with my second child. So it worked. Doing it worked, but I feel like at that point, at my age I was, and the amount of exercise I was doing, it probably would have come off no matter what I was doing. I could have been doing any of the plans, and it probably would have worked. And then I had a bit of a stint with Weight Watchers, which I really, really struggled with. I struggled with the whole ethos behind Weight Watchers. I struggled with the whole, yeah, everything behind Weight Watchers. I found really, really tricky. And then I did Slimming World again in 99 and in I think 2010, and I did it for quite a long time in 2012 and lost quite a lot of weight then between 2012 2014. And then I did it online in 2022, and then I saw my consultant for my hip because I was having terrible problems with my hip, to find out that I needed a hip replacement. And he suggested a scheme that's in our area where you can actually have 12 weeks of either gym membership or 12 weeks of like a slimming class. And I was like, well, I'd much rather do 12 weeks of like in-person slimming class and see how that works. And then obviously I checked with my GP and found out it was Slimming World. I was like, oh great, I know Slimming World really well. I feel like I know it quite well enough to like go for it. I'll do that. And yeah, it was really successful, I think, for me. It was a good jump start. It's what I needed to like get myself motivated. So yeah, I've done like 14 weeks. I think I had a couple of weeks off, so 14 weeks in total a group, before I decided to go it alone. And the 5 reasons I'm giving here are probably the reasons that I'm doing it alone. So it's worked out quite well, I suppose, because it's a bit of an explanation as to why all the different reasons that came behind doing it alone. It wasn't. So number 5 is basically it's a business, and I feel like we need to go into it knowing it's a business, because in the back of your minds we all know it's a business. They're there to try and make money. But the way that it's brought across to you in the groups is that we're here to help you. Like, we're doing a service. We're here to, that's all we want to do, is just help you. Well, no, not really. You're there as a business. You're there to make money. The consultant is there because it's her business and she wants to do this as a job. That it's not altruistic. They're not doing it as a charity. They're not NHS. They're not doing it just to help you. They're doing it because they want to build a business. And so that I understand that, and I get that, and I went into it knowing that, but I didn't like it. Felt very very two-faced in the fact that, like, oh, we're here to help, and that we care about our members and blah blah blah, we really want to help you out as much as possible. But like, no, just let them know, well, this is a business and we're just giving you the tools to try and lose weight. We don't care if you're not going to lose weight, because if you don't lose weight, then you're going to stay here and you're going to be a member for even longer. Or if you lose a bit of weight, then put it on, and lose it and put it on. We're more than happy to have you stay in here without giving you any extra expertise. So yeah, that get the whole push on the magazine, buying the hi-fi bars, entering a raffle, the push on the Iceland Slimming World products, all of that to me seems really disingenuous then to say we're here to help you. Because if you were here to just help us, then you would be thinking about tips to change your lifestyle as it is, tips to actually change your food and change the recipes you're already using, or the food that you've got in your cupboard, what to make out of it that's healthy and that you can use, that's on the Slimming World food optimizing plan, own brand, supermarket own brand food, things like that. If you really cared, you'd be thinking, well, actually, people can't afford to spend £7 attending and then spend another £4 or £5 on hi-fi bars and then another £3 something on a magazine, and then just think about, if you really cared about members, you would be thinking, well, how can we do this so that it doesn't cost them more and more money every time they go? And the emphasis would be on supporting us financially as well as supporting us to lose weight. Because if you're going and it's getting expensive to turn up there every week and to get weighed and then just to walk down, sit down, be ignored during image therapy, go home and then expect to knock it out of the park and lose weight next week, yeah, that's not going to happen. They're not thinking. They're thinking with their business minds. They're not thinking about caring about the members in that way. And that is fine if that is what you're projecting and what you're making very clear. So if you're making it really clear that you're a business and you're just there to sell things and you're just there to make sure that you make money, then that's fine. But don't turn around and be saying to everybody, we really care about you. You don't. It's just a business. So yeah, I find that I really don't like. I don't like the duplicity of it all. Yeah, it is about just making money and keeping their business running. So the fourth one is one I felt like, well, I can say this because I've been to 4 different groups with 4 different consultants, and I've done it online as well. So I feel like this is it has been relevant to all of them, and that's been the inspiration, and not the inspiration the inspiration to motivate you to continue to lose weight and to continue to get as healthy as possible. Then there's no, like, I feel like the encouragement is quite lacking in doing that, because it's great to see the Slimming World magazine and see the success stories in those, but you don't know those people. You're not seeing those people. They're not right in front of you. And we have got the amazing resource of all these different target members that are coming to group. No matter how much they've lost or how little they've lost, they've still lost weight, and then they've managed to maintain the weight that they wanted to be at. So why aren't we using those target members to inspire people and motivate people? Why aren't you getting Jill from down the road that's lost 1.5 stone and has kept it off for over a year to talk about her hints and tips? Why can't we talk about the people that are right here in front of us rather than some stranger on a podcast or on a magazine? So I feel like they're really losing out. And the fact that the image therapy has changed so much in the fact that target members really and truly are just ignored. They're just happy that you're still coming, and they're just probably hoping that you're going to go in and out of your target range so that you then have to pay again. Because while you're coming and turning up and not paying, they're not making any money out of you. But I feel like, yeah, they should be applauded. Those target members should be actually used as really good role models in the group, and they're not doing that. And that's a huge miss, I think. I think that's quite sad. to lose that kind of, not be using that kind of resource that you have right in front of you. And I mean, I'd be far more motivational, far more motivated and encouraged to see somebody I'm sitting next to or sitting in a group with that's lost 5 stone and has kept it off for 6 months or kept it off for a year, or that's what would actually encourage me and motivate me, not listening about Joe Blogs in the magazine that's lost 20 stone and is amazing. Yeah, they're amazing, but it only would be amazing for the other group members that are in there that have seen him lose that weight and been on the journey with him, or at the end of the journey and seen, wow, what an amazing role model. That's when it's really motivating. Not when it's some stranger that you have no idea who they were, you can't relate to them the same. Their story might be very similar to yours, but you can't relate as in, oh, I know this person, I've seen them, I've seen their transformation from, every week they come in and there's a little bit less of them every week, as Being Feast would say. So yeah, I feel like they're missing out on that, on hearing success stories of the actual people in the group. I suppose I have to bring up veganism, because obviously Slimming Well vegan. Our family have been vegan for a long time, since before you could go and eat out vegan, and when it was just Linda McCartney or the odds and sods you could get in Holland and Barrett. So, and it's not just food, we've got a vegan lifestyle, so we make sure that we live as animal friendly as possible. We don't use animal products at all. We don't wear animal products. We avoid them as much as humanly possible. And we're not vegan for health benefits, and we're not vegan for the environment, sadly, because there's lots of things that can be done for the environment. But yeah, we're vegan. Literally, the only reason we went vegan was because of our morally we had to, the fact that we love animals and the fact that we don't want to do any harm, and we don't want to put our hard-earned money into doing any harm either. It just felt like the only way to go, and yeah, felt like the best way to live is to do as little harm as possible. There's so much pain and so much harm and so much evil in the world. We didn't want to contribute to it at all. So that's why we are. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, Byron the Vegan Loser has really covered everything on about veganism and about the lack of products and and the lack of recipes and the lack of imagination in the recipes. So I think, yeah, so check his out. I'll put his link in the description, because his video was brilliant. And yeah, I would definitely recommend watching that, because he didn't go on and on about veganism, but that was one of his points, and he was really clear about it. And I agree with all those points that he put on as well. But yeah, just don't want to cover something that someone else has already covered and already talked about. But yeah, his video was really good, so I would definitely check that out. And obviously I would prefer, when I go to group, to listen to them talk about the health benefits, or to talk about rather than it being, because it's not just, for many vegans, it's not just a diet. We're not being a vegan because we're plant-based and we just want to eat plant-based. It's for lots and lots of reasons. So it's very, very hard to hear about. I mean, not so much in the last group I was in, but in the group that I was in before, the 3 groups that I was in before, the emphasis on eating meat was huge. It was, oh, if you're hungry, eat a packet of ham. Oh my goodness, like that's all I heard constantly. Eat some sausages if you're hungry. Eat this, eat that, because obviously protein fills you up. But it was very frustrating, because I was just, well, I can't do that, and I'm not going to do that. So what other options do I have? And it would have been nice to have had some information about what other options were out there. There's a little bit in the book, the Food Optimizing book, but you just would have expected a little bit of information about nutrition from the consultant. That would have been really helpful. But yeah, I mean, and obviously, like Byron said, the Slimming Well vegan recipes are really pants. There's lots of them, but they're very, very basic, and you'd have to do a lot of tweaks to actually make them taste good. And maybe you'd have to add lots of seasoning. I mean, I add chilies to most things. I add chili oil or actual chilies, fresh chilies to things. I add lots of different seasoning because when you look at their recipes, they are very, very bland. So yeah, it's and not very imaginative either. So yeah, that leads, and when you think veganism has been around for a very long time, and also it's here to stay. I mean, it's been around since the 70s and nothing, and it's been talked about so much recently that it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and the way the world is going is probably going to increase at some point. It'll probably have dips and troughs, but I feel like, yeah, I think Slimming World need to get with the program a little bit and think about things like that and not think about it as just a dietary need, because it's not just a dietary need. A lot of vegans are vegans for the animals, as opposed to just because that's what they want to eat. It's not like that. And obviously, when you think of all the other dietary needs that people have, and there isn't a lot. They don't branch out a lot with any of them. So number two, I think Jane Day had talked about this a little bit actually, about so I'll link her video as well. It talked about the consultant. So when I first started, they weren't called consultants, they were called group leaders. I'm sure they were called group leaders. I don't remember ever calling them consultant until later on, sort of like after the 2000s, maybe the last time I went, even they were called consultants. And I just find that very misleading, because if I go and see a consultant, I expect to have quite a tailor-made discussion about myself. So I expect to be able to have a discussion about, if you're seeing a consultant for losing weight, you'd expect to be able to talk about your trials, issues, tribulations, whatever. You'd expect to be able to talk about your weight loss journey and what you're expected, what you want to happen, how you want it to happen, and about what's happened in the past and things like that. And that's not what it's about, because she's a group leader, or he is a group leader. They're not consultants. They're there to lead a group. And the only way I can think of them as being consultants is if I think about them being consultants in business. So you expecting a consultant to be an expert in their field. So if they're a consultant, they should be an expert in Slimming World. And they probably are. They're an expert in running a group. They're an expert in what Slimming World have taught them. But they're not an expert in losing weight, and they're not an expert in supporting you with the therapy. And image therapy, even the name of it is just like, it's really misleading, because it's not therapy. It's listening to the consultant talk about things that you're not really that interested in. She's talking almost from a script. So yeah, that's quite misleading to call somebody a consultant. Well, they're not. What are they consultant of? And if you say, well, they're a Slimming World consultant, and you're like, okay, so they know all about Slimming World. So yeah, maybe they need to make that very clear, that actually this person isn't a nutritionist or a dietitian. This person isn't an expert in supporting you in counselling or therapy. This person is just an expert in how Slimming World runs as a business. Yeah, so I feel like that is quite misleading, because you turn up, and if you're first person it's your first group, you won't be the only person there. You probably are going to be, I've never turned up to a group on my first week and been the only first timer. I've always turned up and there's been a group of at least 4 people, and sometimes a lot more than that. So how can she give you something tailored just to you? How can she give you that expert advice from a consultant? How can she do that or he do that if they've got 50, 60 people there to see, and you're one of 5 new people that they need to induct into the Slimming World lifestyle, really? So yeah, it's I don't agree with calling somebody a consultant and then, because the connotations to that are that they're an expert in nutrition, an expert in image therapy, an expert in, but they're not. They're just an expert in the particular way that Slimming World do it. And the diet does work. If you follow it, it works 100%. If you're sensible and use common sense, it works. So I understand that this is a product that is actually working and people are losing weight from it. But at the same time, you're missing a lot of people or misleading a lot of people into thinking that they're going to go there and get some really good individual support. They're not. They're just one of a group of people that are going to get the same standard, this, do this, and this, and you'll lose weight. There's nothing that's going to be talking about, oh, your particular diet or all your particular health issues or any of that. There's none of that. You're not going to get that kind of consulting support. You're not going to get that. It doesn't happen. So yeah, I think calling somebody a consultant is very misleading to people, especially when they first start. If they haven't been to a Slimming World group before and it's brand new to them, they could be their expectations could be quite high as to what kind of support they're going to get, and they'll be very, very disappointed. So number one for me was anxiety, which is really strange coming from me because I'm not an anxious person. I'm not normally, don't normally suffer from anxiety. I'm normally quite outgoing, quite social, make friends quite easily when I go out, enjoy being in groups of people, not massive groups of people, but I enjoy being in small groups of people, and I feel like relatively confident person, not overly confident, but confident enough to be able to talk to people no matter what size I've been. I've felt like that. But going to group, I became gradually, as we went along, I became more and more nervous, more and more anxious. I would get stomach issues a few days or the day before. I would feel sick. I would actually feel very, very nauseous before I went in. I would struggle to eat the night before, and if I did eat the night before, I felt really, really sick afterwards. I would a lot of the time become constipated. Talking about, yeah, a bit like Rufus and Lisa when they talk about their pooism, they're going to go their poo museum they're going to. Yeah, I do. That's an issue, because obviously that is an issue. If you haven't lost weight that week, it could be because you have been constipated and your diet has changed. And if it's changed quite drastically, it's obviously it's quite a big option. It could happen, definitely. So yeah, and I had all of those issues that aren't good. It's not healthy to feel like that before going to something. I didn't ever get to the point where I looked forward to going, whereas all the other group activities I do, I look forward to going. I'm like, oh yeah, and if I can't go, oh no, it's such a shame, I'm going to really miss it. Didn't feel like that with this at all, even though like I still like chatting with the people I sat with. Even with that, I was just so anxious, and the build up started to get earlier and earlier, whereas before, because I had a Saturday morning weigh-in, and I would get, before it would just get a bit sort of flutters in my tummy Saturday morning, and then it got to Friday, and then I was like, oh, I feel like I can't eat anything Friday, I felt nauseous, and then it got to like Thursday, and I'm like, and that's when I was like, this is not healthy, this is not good for me, feeling this anxious about getting weighed. And the thing is, the getting weighed and doing, there was no I didn't feel the accountability of getting weighed, because it was the consultant's husband, would take down your weight, put it in a book, and that would be it. And then there was no talk about what you'd gone up or down, unless you'd done a really big loss, or unless you'd had well, no, not even if you'd done a really big gain. So unless you had a really big loss, it wasn't talked about. There was no chatting, or how do you feel, or it was just because either if you put on £1 or you put on £2. Whereas before, when I used to go, there was that individual. You could have a discussion with the therapist. The therapist, oh my gosh, look at me. It's because slip of the tongue there. With the consultant, you could have a discussion about it, and you could say, actually, I'm really disappointed. I've been on plan and this wasn't expected, but I've been really nervous and really anxious, and this is maybe why your body's holding on to water weight, because you're so stressed. There was no option to do any of that, and that's quite sad. And I feel like you're putting so much emphasis on getting weighed, on that sort of few minutes of getting weighed and you seeing that number. There's so much emphasis. Your whole week almost revolves around that number, and I really don't think that's healthy. And I'm somebody that luckily hasn't got any sort of particular mental health issues, and I'm thinking, well, what if I did? What if I had like generalized anxiety disorder, or if I had some other kind of mental health issue? Like, how would I cope with that kind of stress and that kind of pressure of getting weighed and then putting on weight, feeling completely disappointed, completely disheartened by it, and then expecting to go home and meal plan and pull my socks up and get on with it and lose weight the following week without any support, like without any kind of support around it. The consultant is too busy now to send you a quick text, oh, I hope that everything was okay. They're too busy now. They've got hundreds of people on their books. They don't have time to message everybody that's put on £0.5 or £1 and say, oh, I hope you're okay with that, and reach out if you need to. They can't do that anymore. And I'm like, so they're asking, you're expecting a lot of yourself to go there and weigh in and lose weight, and if you don't, then you're mentally beating yourself up about it because you haven't lost weight, or you've put on, or you've maintained if you don't want to maintain, all of that. But then you're not getting the backup, you're not getting that support network, you're not being able to have a chat with the people around you even and have that support there. And I feel like that is really, for me, I feel like that's a really big issue. Because the consultants aren't trained in counselling, they're not trained in giving you therapy, even though they call it image therapy. They're not trained in any of that at all. So yeah, I find that really, really hard. And a lot of, you could see, obviously, you could see it when you were at the groups. You could see the people that struggled with that, the people that struggled with not getting the support. And then you would hear about them talking about having a cheat night. Oh, that's it. Well, I've put on weight anyway. I'm going to go and have a takeaway tonight, or I'm going to have burger and chips, or I'm going to have a bottle of wine. And you would hear that and you think, well, this is just exactly why we're in the situation we're in with needing to lose weight to get healthier, is because we've punished ourselves or self-sabotaged ourselves with food. And that's never... it doesn't get addressed. Let me just have my tea. It doesn't get addressed in group, and I find that really, really bad for something that's a service. And say there's a service, it's a business, but it's a business around losing weight. So people put on weight generally they don't put on weight just because they've eaten too much, just because they're drinking too much. They put on weight for lots of underlying conditions, health conditions and mental health conditions, physical and mental. So none of that gets addressed. And that's where I feel like all of the groups, all of the slimming groups, Weight Watchers, Slimming World, any of those sort of branch off of little groups that they have, that's where I think that they really are failing, is in their support of people and the thinking about why they're in the position they're in already. They're not, the people aren't there because they're lazy, they're not there because they're greedy, they're not there for because they don't understand and they're not educated about food. Everybody knows that if you eat butter and you eat full cheese and you eat all the oil and you eat loads of chocolate, that you're actually going to have more calories than you need and your body is going to store those calories. People know that. Like, the education system is enough to give us that kind of information when we're children. So people know that. People know calories in, calories out. And even though they know that and have that information, they're still putting on weight. They're still getting heavier than they want to be. They're still becoming unhealthy. They're still holding fat where they around their organs where they shouldn't be holding fat. So that's all still happening, even though we know that this food isn't healthy for us and this isn't good for us. And I feel like that doesn't get addressed at all. And there is a million different reasons why people put on weight and people are overweight, and none of them get addressed apart from trying to educate you, and which I find really, really patronising, because I would have said 99.9% of people that go to these groups completely understand that if they're making a curry and they're putting a whole cup of oil in it, it's not going to be as healthy as if they used a spray of oil in it. They completely understand that. They don't need to be told that. But maybe talking about and having workshops about advertising, like the way that food's advertised to you as being healthy when it's not actually healthy. Look at the ingredients. If you don't have those ingredients in your kitchen, then actually it's not really a healthy food to eat. If you can't grow them in your garden and you don't have them in your kitchen, should you be eating it at all? It's chemicals. There's nothing like that going on, and I feel like that is quite a huge disservice to the members that are going there and paying their money to have a consultant support them during image therapy and support them with their weight loss goals. And yeah, I find that quite big. So I would expect more expert help, or more if not expert help face to face, then access to expert help with supporting people that have got issues around food, no matter what they are. But educating us, that is, you're missing the mark. Everybody that goes there has more than likely been to other groups before. I mean, my group alone, I would say 90% of the people there were in their 40s and 50s. And when she asks for a show of hands, who's been on Slimming World before, who's been on other slimming groups before, other weight plans, fitness plans, whatever, nearly everybody puts their hands up. Everybody knows this information. That's not the information we need. So yeah, it would be really good. Workshops around avoiding certain types of food, workshops around actually cooking whole food, workshops around checking ingredients, workshops around actually thinking about calories in, calories out, not calorie counting. Like, you don't have to do calorie counting, but just thinking about, well, you look at something and say, oh gosh, that small little thing is 600 calories. That is basically a whole meal. Do I want to have this little thing as a whole meal? So it's that. It's not necessarily saying you have to calorie count, but I mean, most restaurants now even have the calories on the meals. So if you're going out for a meal and you know you've already had 2 meals and this is just one of 3 meals, and you have a look and it's 1,500 calories just for that one meal, you know it's going to send you over. So yeah, it's that kind of information that would be helpful. That kind of, even if they did like a workshop once a month, we're just going to be discussing and talking about blah blah blah. We're going to be talking about advertising in between your YouTube videos. The adverts, some of the adverts I watched immediately go on to chocolate, and it's really frustrating. So sorry if the adverts on today's video have been all about food. I'm really sorry. I have no control over that. So yeah, I feel like Slimming World are missing out on, they're doing the members a disservice in that way. But obviously it would cost more money. And would the members then have to pay that? I don't know. More training for the consultants, so they are actually consultants of losing weight as opposed to consultants of Slimming World. bringing in expertise, bringing in experts to talk about things, having talks about advertising, having talks about eating whole foods, having talks about looking at calories, have a talk about exercising. That would be really helpful. So all of that would be super, super helpful. All of that would really help with the anxiety of going and getting weighed. If you knew you'd put on weight and you're going to go and get weighed, and you know you're going to get the support afterwards, or you're going to get some help or some really good advice, you don't feel so bad. You don't feel so nervous. You'll still get it, but you won't get it as bad because you think, well, actually, I've had a really bad week, or I've had a really good week, but I'm pretty sure I've put on weight. I feel bloated, whatever. And if you're going to go to group and then you're in that group, they're going to discuss it, or they're going to talk about, give you hints and tips that are going to be really helpful, you won't feel so anxious about going. And that's for me personally. I wouldn't, if I knew that I was going to get that kind of group therapy kind of help after my weigh-in, I wouldn't have got so anxious about it, definitely. So yeah, anxiety, for somebody who doesn't actually suffer generally with anxiety, the group, going to group, getting weighed on a Saturday morning, as lovely as the consultant was, as sweet as the social people were, and as lovely as the people were that I sat with, I still was very, very anxious about doing it. So that's my 5, I don't necessarily hates, but my 5 reasons for why I'm not going to Slimming World as a group member now. I'm not saying that I would rule it out forever, because if I ever felt like I needed a bit of a boost, I feel like buying myself a 6-week countdown or a 12-week countdown or something like that would be actually beneficial, because it gives you a little bit of like, right, we're back on it again, we're back on a roll again. But I'd much rather be able to just slot it into my life as it is, rather than it be all about that Saturday morning weigh-in. I would rather be able to slot it into my life and it's just about every single day. So yeah, those are my 5. I don't know whether I do 5 things that I love. I mean, I'm following the food optimizing plan, so maybe I can talk about that because I do love that, and as much as people don't love everything about that, I haven't found anything that I've actually disliked about the food optimizing, about thinking about the third on your plate, about thinking about not having to weigh and measure your potatoes and your pasta and your rice and things like that. All of that is, and not having to weigh and measure your speed food and all of that, I find really, really helpful, like on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I might do it because of that, but as I can do that without going to group. So I'd have to think of 5 good things about going to group. And after what I've just said, I don't know whether I'd have 5. I'll have to have a think about it and see if I can come up with any. But yeah, that's my experience of Slimming World over the years. Yeah, it's been very varied, and it has definitely changed, because obviously when I first started it was red and green days, and that was great fun. And it felt like a whole new language. So yeah, it has definitely changed, and I think it's probably changed for the better. I do think that. I just think maybe it's time that they make some more changes and make it a little bit more up to date. And if they're talking about trying to encourage younger people to come, I feel the way it's formatted at the moment, it's not going to encourage younger people. Yeah. So, and I consider myself one of the older people going, and even I look at it sometimes and I listen to it and I think, oh, that's a bit odd. Like, I don't want to do a raffle for goodness knows what, and I don't want to go there and talk about X, Y, and Z's party that they had, where they drunk loads and loads of drink and everything that wasn't nailed down, and then they've put on weight or they've lost weight and they don't know how it happened. And I don't want to don't want to do that. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see other people's take on it. I know there's quite a few people that have done the 5 things love and hate. So Luke John, Byron the Vegan Loser obviously started it. Luke John, Jane Day's done one, Rufus and Lisa have done them on the Beyond Authentic Health as well. So I'll link them all in the description so that you can go and check their videos out. They're much more professional than me. They're really good videos, actually, really interesting. Mine's just me having a moan, but yeah, they're really interesting. So go ahead and have a look and comment if you disagree or agree or feel that there's something else you wanted to add or anything like that. Just put in the comments. I love comments. I always reply to comments because I don't get very many, which I'm happy about as well, because yeah, this is for me to have a bit of a support network, and also because I felt like there was a huge gap in the slimming world of people that are doing it, but doing it with a vegan lifestyle. So I felt like, yeah, there was a huge gap in that. And it was so weird that like a week later that Byron the Vegan Loser started, and Bean Feast told me about him and said, oh, go and watch his videos. So yeah, that was really helpful, and his videos have been brilliant. So I thoroughly recommend subscribing to his. But yeah, that's my take on Slimming World and going to Slimming World groups, physically going to them as opposed to online, which I didn't really talk very much about. But maybe I'll use that in the 5 good things, if I can think of 5 good things, because it was a good thing. So maybe I'll think about that in the 5 good things. Anyway, it's lovely to chat with you again. 2nd video of the week. How weird when I'm so late with my last video. But yeah, so hopefully see you again next week after I've weighed in on Wednesday morning. Bye.